Well, the GTHA housing market starting off this year with pretty much the same theme as last year, flat momentum from the end of 2022. Sales of homes, though, still nearly 46% lower than January of 2022. So let's take a look what's taking shape with Jason Mercer, Chief Market Analyst at the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. Jason, always appreciate you being in here.
Thanks for having me.
You know, when you compare this January to last January, so much has changed, hasn't it? So what does this sort of fall in line with your expectations about what you would expect from the market, considering all that's been going on?
Yeah, we're going to have a few months this year where we're seeing, a pretty considerable drop in comparison to where we were in the first quarter of 2022. And we were talking this time last year, we'd actually seen a real spike in activity, January, February, first part of March, both in terms of sales and price. And so that now that year-over-year difference is quite extreme. But, if you look at it month over month, really since the late summer, early fall, we've really seen sort of a flatlining, both in terms of sales and price. And so that kind of suggests maybe we're at a bit of a bottom in this cycle, and now the Bank of Canada has given some guidance that maybe we won't see any further interest rate hikes, and that could act as a signal for some people who are sort of sitting on the sidelines waiting to see how things are going to shake out. Perhaps we'll start seeing more people coming off the sidelines and back into the marketplace.
And that is that kind of the thing, the key to the market right now, is the fact that so many people are kind of parked right now and kind of looking to see where are we going? Is this a bottom? Because it seems to me supply, as we talk about in almost every conversation we have, without that supply, the market kind of doesn't go anywhere right now.
Yeah, I think it's a big part of it. And so, number one, when you have sort of an aggressive interest rate tightening cycle like we've seen, it gives people pause. And so they need to take a step back and say, it's not like I'm not going to purchase a home. I want to purchase a home in the GTA. I'm here for the long term. But what am I going to purchase now? Maybe in January of 2022, I was thinking about a detached home, but now with higher rates, I'm thinking maybe it's going to be a semi or a townhome, or maybe it's going to be a different part of the GTA. But that calculus takes some time to work through. And then on top of that, you're thinking, well, I don't want to buy a home as prices are continuing to trend lower. Mm-hmm. And so you're waiting for those signals. You're waiting for the signal. Is this kind of the end of that downward trend? Or is this the end of interest rate hikes? And if so, I've thought through where I'm going to be in the marketplace. And I'm going to start moving back in.
I realize it's very difficult to time the market, right? Because markets can fluctuate.
Sure.
We didn't know in January of last year that we were going to see the 8 straight increases in the Bank of Canada rate. You can't see this, but when do you think we will potentially know that this is a bottom? Would this be a conversation you and I are having in May, potentially, if things remain kind of as they are?
I certainly think it's going to be a year of two halves to a certain degree. I think the first half is still going to be the hangover from what we saw in 2022. But if you look, second half of 2023, and even more importantly, beyond that, we had the federal government, they announced earlier this year that we'd seen record levels of immigration in 2022. And they basically said we should expect that in 23 and 24 and 25. Yeah. And so all of these people are going to require a place to live.
Sorry to interrupt you, but it's interesting because you hear some people, that are talking about the real estate market saying, the sky is falling is kind of the message you hear from some people. You're the numbers guy, right? You're the market analyst. Yeah. You look at these numbers. You're not getting emotional. You're just sort of looking at it and sort of taking a look at forecast projections, past performance, and looking ahead to the future. How do you assess the overall sort of scenario we're in right now? Like, where do you, it's so hard to compare these last couple of COVID years of historic low rates and everything else, but how do you assess the overall position?
Well, if we take a step back, and I was talking about population growth, and I think that leads us to a broader discussion just about the demand for housing. Mm-hmm. Forget about whether it's ownership or rental, just the demand for housing in the GTA. So we got the unemployment rate at or near record lows. We got people moving in record numbers, and all these people need a place to live. Yeah. So right now, they're not necessarily focused on the ownership market. There's affordability issues there, both in terms of price point and higher borrowing costs. So now we're focused on the rental market, and we're seeing double-digit rent increases on that side. And it gets us to that real sort of supply discussion where if we want to see the population grow, and we certainly do from an economic development perspective, we need places for these people to live. And if we don't provide that supply, we're going to see increasing prices, whether it's on the ownership side or the rent side. And it's a real economic development imperative, because if you can't provide affordable housing, people are going to start to look elsewhere. So that's a major factor, both from the GTA construct, but also broader Ontario, Canada-wide.
Yes, yeah. Okay, always a fascinating conversation. Good to get into these numbers with you, Jason Mercer from TREB. Thanks for the time, as always.
You're very welcome.